Usually when you picture going off to university, there is this expectation of just like pristine order.
Oh, absolutely. You imagine manicured lawns and quiet libraries.
Well, right, and a syllabus that lays out exactly what you are going to learn, week by week.
Yeah, it's highly structured. Like
Yeah.
you are given a map of knowledge
Yeah.
and you basically just have to follow the paved path.
Exactly. It's supposed to be this clean, organized trajectory from ignorance to enlightenment. But then you step into the world of 19th century Russia.
Which is a whole different ballgame.
Totally. You step in with a young, impoverished man who desperately wants that map, but instead he gets thrown into a reality where the syllabus is dictated by the slums, the bakeries,
And the secret, damp basements of political revolutionaries.
yeah. Suddenly, that pristine image of a university is completely shattered. So today we are welcoming you to this deep dive where we are following young Alexei, who the world eventually came to know as Maxim Gorky, into that shattered world.
And we are looking at a really brilliant piece of source material to do this. We're exploring the Turkish edition of Gorky's autobiographical work, My Universities.
Or Benim Üniversitelerim, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. This specific edition was translated by Muslim Beyhan.
Right, and it was published by Türkiye İş Bankası Kültür Yayınları.
Yeah, and honestly, just holding this physical book sort of sets a mood before you even open it.
Oh, for sure. It features this incredibly striking, almost defiant portrait of Gorky, and he's staring right at you from this stark red cover.
It practically demands that you abandon all your preconceptions of what an education actually is.
It really does. So our mission today is to follow Gorky as he arrives in the city of Kazan. He has this incredibly naive dream of getting a formal education, only to discover this massive collision between high-minded intellectual idealism and the raw, brutal reality of the working class.
It's a heavy journey.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, we really have to begin with his arrival in Kazan. He travels there because a well-meaning high school student essentially convinced him that the university is just waiting for a brilliant, untested mind like his.
Right, like they're just going to roll out the red carpet for him.
Exactly. But the reality hits him immediately. Instead of enrolling in these grand lecture halls, he finds himself trying to survive in extreme poverty.
Yeah, in this sprawling, rotting slum known as Marasovka.
Marasovka is, it's intense.
It's not just a slum, though. It's like a sociological centrifuge.
That's a great way to put it.
Because the extreme poverty there, it spins away all the polite societal norms and pretensions, and it leaves only the most raw, concentrated human behaviors right at the bottom.
You basically have the absolute extremes of human existence crammed into one space.
Right. It's like a chaotic, tragicomic 19th century reality show, or like a completely unfiltered social media feed. She genius and total madness, all in one decaying building.
It was wild is that those extremes become his first faculty members.
Yeah, his street professors.
Exactly. These deeply marginalized figures teach Gorky more about human resilience and psychology than any traditional professor ever could.
Because they're living it.
Right. They are living the completely unfiltered human condition.
And what a faculty it is, by the way. First you have this guy named Bafkin.
Oh, Bashkin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is a professional thief. And he's also consumptive, so he's actively dying of tuberculosis, literally coughing up blood.
It's a grim picture.
Very. Yet he preaches this incredibly romantic worldview. He absolutely idolizes the novel The Count of Monte Cristo.
He does, yeah.
And he delivers these poetic, theatrical speeches about how one must live in love and that there is no sin when it comes to women.
What's fascinating here is the sheer cognitive dissonance Bashkin presents.
Seriously, it's jarring.
You have a man undergoing severe physical decay, living a criminal lifestyle, but possessing this elevated, almost aristocratic romanticism.
Right. For a young Gorky, this just completely shatters the binary idea that poverty and crime automatically equal a lack of intellect or, a lack of emotional depth.
Bashkin is a thief, but he hungers for beauty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then right next door, basically, you have Guri Pletnyov.
Pletnyov is such a contrast.
He really is. He's this totally destitute student. He literally sleeps on a cot in a dark hallway under the stairs.
And he plays the gusli.
Yeah, a traditional Russian stringed instrument.
Yeah.
And despite his absolute crushing poverty, he approaches life with this infectious, resilient joy.
He's like a firecracker constantly going off in this incredibly bleak environment.
That's spot on.
And Pletnyov demonstrates this vital mechanism for survival, for Gorky, which is spiritual endurance.
Wow, oh yeah.
He shows Gorky that joy isn't necessarily a byproduct of good circumstances. In places like Marosovka, joy is a defiant choice.
It's a weapon against the squalor.
Exactly. But just down the hall, you have the absolute darkest flip side of that endurance.
The mathematician.
Yes. There is a mad mathematician who is also dying of tuberculosis. And he's described so vividly in the text, with his bluish-purple skin showing through his rags.
It's terrifying. He literally screams through the hallways.
He does, because he is obsessed with mathematically disproving Euclidean geometry.
Right. He views traditional mathematics as a prison.
Yeah, and he is frantically trying to mathematically prove the existence of God before his disease kills him.
It's so tragic. He is trying to mathematically escape the rules of a reality that has just been incredibly cruel to him.
That's exactly it. In a traditional university, human behavior is sanitized,
Oh.
It's categorized and put into neat little theoretical boxes.
But in Marosovka, human nature is literally screaming in the hallway, begging for a way out.
Right, but surviving the slum was really only half the battle for Gorky.
Oh, for sure. Because once he realized the underclass possessed this raw, chaotic brilliance, he naturally started looking for the people who were trying to organize it.
Which pulled him straight into the underground political scene.
Yeah. He starts encountering these secret political reading circles, specifically a group called the Narodniks.
And just to be very clear for you listening right now, as Gorky steps into these damp basements, he finds himself in the middle of a massive ideological war.
Right, between Tsarist loyalists and left-wing revolutionaries in 19th century Russia.
Exactly. And we need to explicitly state that our goal today is absolutely not to take any sides in a historical political dispute.
Definitely not. We are not endorsing any of these viewpoints.
No, we are just impartially reporting the ideologies exactly as they are depicted in the text, just to understand the historical context and see how these highly charged ideas clashed in Gorky's mind.
Well said. So keeping that in mind, the Narodniks, just for context, were essentially a movement of middle-class and upper-class intellectuals.
Right, and they believed it was their duty to go to the people and incite a peasant revolution.
So Gorky starts attending their secret underground meetings, and they are hiding these damp basements, completely terrified of the Tsar's secret police.
And what are they doing down there?
They are reading dense, dry, 19th century socialist economic theory, thinkers like John Stuart Mill, and Russian radicals like Chernyshevsky.
And what is Gorky's reaction to all this revolutionary theory?
It's just sheer agonizing boredom.
Yeah, he is totally uninspired.
Completely. And it's not because the text is too complex for him to understand.
No, not at all. It's because the theories they are reading are attempting to explain the exploitation of the working class. But Gorky is already living that reality.
Exactly. He doesn't need a thick, heavily footnoted book to explain that manual labor is exploitative.
The mechanism of poverty is literally written in the calluses on his hands.
That is so true. And to really drive home this massive chasm between academic theory and physical reality, the book gives us this incredibly visceral scene on the Volga River.
Oh, the barge scene. It's incredible.
It really is. So Gorky gets this brutal job unloading a sinking barge full of Persian goods. It's September. There is a freezing, violent rainstorm happening.
And the workers are just miserable. They're cursing their lives, moving like half-asleep bears in the freezing mud.
But then the foreman yells out a challenge. He promises buckets of vodka if they can finish the job before the barge actually goes under.
And the atmosphere just completely explodes.
It's wild. These freezing, exhausted men suddenly enter this ecstatic, primal frenzy of joyful labor.
They are running barefoot on wet decks in the freezing rain.
Throwing these heavy sacks, which, by the way, weigh 4 poods, or over 140 pounds.
They're throwing them like they are stuffed with feathers.
Right. They're laughing, challenging each other, just working with this intoxicating, almost maddening joy until 2 in the afternoon the next day.
And Gorky is watching them, and he feels like they have so much latent power, they could literally pick up the entire city and move it if they wanted to.
So what does this all mean? I mean, why did Gorky find more poetry and life in freezing, backbreaking manual labor than in the book specifically designed to, quote-unquote, save the working class?
Because that scene on the barge exposes the fatal flaw of the intellectuals Gorky was mingling with.
How so?
Well, the students in the basements loved a sanitized theoretical concept of the people. They viewed the working class as this passive, suffering entity that needed to be rescued by their superior intellect.
Oh, I see.
But on that barge, Gorky witnessed the actual, raw, terrifying power of the masses. The intellectuals were entirely disconnected from the reality of the workers' lives.
They loved humanity in the abstract.
Exactly. But they didn't actually understand the messy, sweaty, swearing individuals who made up the real working class.
It is the difference between studying aerodynamics on a chalkboard and actually standing in the middle of a hurricane.
That's a perfect analogy. And that realization begins to deeply alienate Gorky from the revolutionaries.
He feels they are trying to save a version of the working class that doesn't actually exist outside of their textbooks.
Right. But his education in the streets was about to get much darker.
Yeah, it really takes a turn.
The friction of bouncing between the chaos of the slums and the sterility of the intellectuals leaves him vulnerable to some truly cynical philosophies.
Which brings us to what we might call his seminars in despair.
Yeah.
One night, in the middle of a blinding blizzard, Gorky literally trips over a man freezing to death in the snow.
Just stumbles right over him.
Yeah, and this man, Georges, turns out to be a former history teacher. So Gorky saves his life, drags him home, and as Georges thaws out, he unloads this incredibly bleak mechanism of how the world works.
Georges argues that human progress is an absolute myth.
It's so grim.
Very. As a history teacher, he views history not as a steady march toward enlightenment, but as an endless cycle of empires rising on the backs of slaves and falling into ruin.
He claims that for humanity to exist at all, slavery is required.
Right, that the majority must always submit to the minority. And worst of all, he tells Gorky that people don't actually want truth or knowledge.
He insists humanity ultimately only seeks forgetfulness and comfort. Wait, is that entirely true, though? I feel like I have to push back on George's claim there.
Oh, definitely. The text doesn't support that as an absolute.
Right, because the text doesn't just show us people seeking mindless comfort. What about someone like Nikita Rubtsov?
Ah, yes. Rubtsov is a fantastic counterexample.
Gorky meets this older, half-blind factory worker who has worked in textile mills all over Russia.
And Rubtsov loves going to the circus. He fiercely wants to overthrow the factory bosses.
But more importantly, he actively seeks out illegal, banned books to understand the world better.
Right. He is practically starving for truth, not comfort.
Exactly.
So this raises an important question for Gorky. Is human nature fundamentally driven by a desire for truth and liberation, like Rubtsov? Or a desire for comfort and ignorance, like Georges claims?
It's a huge conflict for him.
Because Georges represents the ultimate cynicism, the idea that all the passion Gorky saw on that barge is useless because humanity is inherently lazy.
And the philosophical hits just keep coming.
They really do.
Because Gorky also gets invited to the home of Nikiforich, the local policeman.
Right.
And Nikiforich is cunning, his chest is covered in medals, and he speaks with this chilling, calculated authority.
He describes the Tsarist system not as a government, but as an invisible web that traps absolutely everyone.
And he explains the mechanics of that web. It isn't just about having soldiers on the street.
No, it's about microsurveillance and mutual suspicion.
Right, the web works by making everyone police each other. But then Nikiforich takes it a step further into this really dark philosophy.
He fiercely argues against the gospel's teachings of pity and mercy.
He actually claims that pity is harmful to society.
Yes, from the perspective of a 19th century Tsarist enforcer, pity is a systemic vulnerability.
Wow.
He argues that by helping the weak and the sick, you only drain the resources of the strong and ultimately ruin society's forward momentum.
It is a harsh, proto-social Darwinist view of the world.
Empathy, to Nikiforich, is a structural flaw.
Hearing all this, the political theories that don't match reality, the history teacher who believes progress is a lie, the policeman who believes pity is a weakness, it completely batters Gorky's young mind.
He is totally trapped between these irreconcilable worlds.
He is suffering from profound ideological whiplash.
He is desperately seeking a unified truth to live by. But everywhere he looks, he finds only hypocrisy, contradiction, and people trying to force the messy reality of life into their rigid frameworks.
And the hypocrisy is ultimately what pushes him over the edge.
Yes, the incident with Klopsky.
Right. He meets this man named Klopsky, who is a Tolstoyan preacher. Now, to understand this, being a Tolstoyan meant following the later philosophy of the author Leo Tolstoy.
Which meant preaching radical Christian love, extreme simplicity, and asceticism.
Exactly. And Klopsky gives these fiery theatrical sermons about how love is the only truth and how everyone must submit to love.
It sounds perfect to a young man looking for hope.
It really does. But then it is revealed that Klopsky is a complete fraud.
A total hypocrite.
He was secretly making inappropriate advances on two sisters who were kindly hosting him, and they just throw him out on the street.
The man preaching universal love was just using it as a mask for predation.
And for Gorky, this is the breaking point. The psychological toll of living in this murky, contradictory landscape just becomes too heavy.
He is exhausted by the massive gap between what people say in their theories and what they actually do in practice.
So, driven to absolute despair in the dead of winter, Gorky buys a cheap revolver in the market.
Yeah.
He goes out into the cold, aims at his chest, and shoots himself in the lung. He was intending to hit his heart.
He is trying to permanently escape the classroom of the streets.
But he survives. He spends a month in the hospital recovering from the gunshot wound, and he emerges feeling this immense, crushing shame for having tried to take his own life.
He hits absolute rock bottom.
He does. The gunshot is the terrifying climax of his theoretical education.
But from that rock bottom comes a transition.
Yeah, he meets a man named Romas who goes by the nickname Hoho.
And Romas is entirely different from the frantic students in the basements or the cynical teachers in the snow.
Right, he is calm, he is solid, he speaks plainly without relying on complex jargon, and he offers Gorky a practical job in a village called Krasnovidovo.
This is the turning point where his education shifts from abstract observation to practical application.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text describes their journey to this village, and the symbolism is just incredibly powerful.
Oh, the river scene.
Yes. It is springtime. They are on a boat on the Volga River, and all around them, the thick winter ice is cracking and melting.
The sun is reflecting off the water.
Surviving his darkest, coldest, most isolating winter literally places Gorky on a river flowing toward a new season.
And pay attention to the people he is surrounded by on this boat. The environment has changed, and so has the faculty.
There is no more theoretical debate about the working class in damp basements.
He's sitting right next to them.
Exactly. He is with Kukushkin, a worker who is battered and bruised because he recently got beaten up by artillerymen.
But Kukushkin doesn't care about his bruises. He is endlessly curious, constantly asking questions, just refusing to be silenced by the violence of the world.
And then there is Izot, a stunningly strong, barefooted man who radiates this quiet, capable power.
Beyond concepts, they are fiercely, undeniably alive.
So when we look at the entire arc of this story, we really have to ask why Gorky's chaotic education required him to go through this specific gauntlet.
Well, he had to hit absolute rock bottom to strip away all the illusions he held about academia, about the so-called intellectual saviors, and about his own romanticism.
Right.
Only by surviving that self-inflicted gunshot could he stop being a confused, passive observer of other people's abstract theories.
The spring thaw on the river represents his transition into an active participant in life.
Exactly. He is leaving the University of the Streets not to go to a real university, but to go to a village, to do actual practical work with the Romas.
He finally realizes that he can't think his way into understanding the world. He has to actually live in it.
He trades the syllabus for the soil.
That's beautifully put. The theories were just a map, but the people on the barge, the thief in the slum, the cynical policeman, they were the actual territory.
They really were.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Gorky's world, I want to turn this back to you listening right now.
Yeah, because this isn't just about 19th century Russia.
No, not at all. We all face our own modern versions of this, don't we? We all have those moments of total information overload.
Absolutely.
Those moments where the pristine theories we read in books or the endless, rigid opinions we see online just clash wildly with the messy, on-the-ground reality we actually experience every day.
And Gorky's story is this beautiful, brutal reminder that sometimes true education requires stepping out of our theoretical classrooms.
We have to face the contradictory, sometimes hypocritical, but ultimately brilliant reality of human nature head on.
It forces us to reconsider where wisdom actually lives and who is qualified to teach it.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over.
If you were forced to abandon your formal education or your current career today, and you had to learn strictly from the streets of your own town, who in your everyday life, the barista, the delivery driver, the local eccentric, would become your greatest professor?
The map is never the territory. Until next time.